Hi everyone, welcome to part 4. Okay, I have just played bishop h3 and my opponent played knight f6, which is a game-losing blunder. And if you want to try and spot why, then stop the video now, it's not too tough. Rook takes g6 is the reason why, because after he recaptures with f takes g6, I have knight h6 check, picking up his queen for a rook and knight. After g takes h6, bishop takes d7, and knight takes d7. But now black's position has completely collapsed, and white is winning. It's plus 3.3 already, and the attack is far from over. Next there's rook takes c7, gaining a dangerous rook on the 7th with tempo due to the loose knight here at d7. And after it moves, knight f6 as bishop takes h6. So now I am 2 pawns up, with the prospect of mobilizing my center pawns to create a pass pawn and finishing him off if my queen doesn't do that before. And Noel was rightly worried about me playing f4, which, if he isn't careful, will win his bishop. And also about my attack on the g7 square here. So he played the logical but passive move that Fritz recommends, knight h5. And here I really think I should have taken control of the c-file completely with queen c2, which I think would have been the most accurate continuation, although it gives him f4. But time was fairly scarce now, perhaps 10 minutes each, and I played a purely for tempo move with f4, which isn't bad because it takes control of important dark squares given the position, in particular e5 and f4, but at the same time it loses some initiative and gives him the chance to challenge the c-file, which I shouldn't have allowed. Although the position is winning, it's always vital to restrict counterplay. After bishop f6, I have to defend e4 from the rook, and in doing so I hand him the initiative with f3. And that's what I played. It's what Fritz recommends. But I was toying with the pawn sack e5 instead to open direct lines, and it would have been unnecessary to give him the pawn and impatient, but seemingly it was effective as well. Let's have a look. If e5, best play continues, bishop d8, and white is still easily winning, 4 pawns up on the evaluation, and it's far worse for black if he accepts the sacrifice. If d takes e5, because now comes d6, threatening queen d5 check, and now white is nearly 6 pawns ahead. So that would have been interesting, but there's rarely any reason to rush things, except for maybe if you're in time trouble in the end game, or the end of the middle game, or at any stage of the game. Really, there's no need to press it if you don't have to, if you can maintain your positional advantage. So I played f3. And a5 is how we continued, apparently not concerned with the c-file, so I now took total control of it with queen c2, which is threatening queen c6 with a decisive queen penetration. The forking of the pawns at b5 and d6 is the least of black's worries here. If the queen gets to d7, then it's game over. And bishop d4 is how he answered, which is a logical move, as I've just given up control of d4, moving my queen away from controlling it. And queen c6 is still my plan now, but I don't want to give him counterplay with bishop takes b2 and a queenside pawn majority. So I first played b3, and he answered with a4, and I kept everything closed with b4, again restricting counterplay. An open A or B file, if there was some exchanges there between these pawns, could have served him very well for his rooks. And bishop e3 is what he played here, looking to pick up the f4 pawn. But this was a bad mistake, because queen c3 simultaneously attacks the bishop, takes control of the long diagonal, and creates mating threats. And now black is totally lost and has to give up the bishop in order to stop himself from being mated. Noel played bishop takes f4 and then resigned, and explained during the post-mortem that he hadn't seen the mate threat that means I can now win a piece with bishop takes f4, and there's no knight takes f4 because of queen g7, which is mate. But after bishop takes f4, it's a forced mate in 6 anyway. At this stage, after bishop takes f4, there's a rook g7 check, leads immediately to mate, and he can't take with a knight, of course, or queen g7 is mate. And to delay for as long as possible, he has to play king h8. But now comes a rook b7, a discovered check from the queen, and the queen's coming to c7 next, and will mate quickly. For example, king g8, queen c7, and he can only delay it with moves like knight g3 check. King g2 is most accurate. Now rook e7, it's crazy, but it just delays the mate. Queen takes e7, bishop takes h6, queen takes h7 check, king f8, and queen f7 is mate. So that's it anyway. I was happy with this win, and glad to be back in with a shot at doing well in the tournament. In a week or so, I'm playing the highest rated guy in the tournament, so hopefully that'll go well too. We've got a bit of time left, so we may as well have a replay of the game. The threatened squares on. Yeah, it's funny actually, the day before this game was played, I was eating my dinner, and I finished off the end of a glass of milk, and in the bottom of the glass I saw the word Spain, and I thought, that's strange. It didn't say made in Spain or, you know, something like that. It just said Spain. And I said to my mum, well, maybe it's a sign, maybe I should play the Spanish Opening, my game tomorrow. And I didn't even think of that when, you know, when I was playing the opening, but who knows, maybe maybe fate was trying to tell me something, who knows. I don't really believe in anything like that, just for the record, but who knows. So anyway, yeah, I was happy with my my centre here especially. But I think d5 might have been premature there, and queen b3 probably wasn't the soundest continuation, but it was annoying that I missed the knight takes b5 combination early on anyway. Yeah, and he definitely had some passive moves, Noel. He's a fairly strong player. I think he's about, if he was FIDE, he would be about 1900, I think. But I thought also what was interesting here was that, you know, with his attack here on my king, it really came to nothing, and it left his pieces very passive. Whereas my pieces had, you know, activity over the whole board. His were concentrated here, and when that attack came to nothing, he was left with very little play. But yeah, the way I did it, I mean, with bishop h3 here, you know, I've got just better control of the whole board, I think, although this pawn structure is dictating that I should be attacking here and he should be attacking here, which is more or less what happened, although I managed to get my pieces over here in the process of defending. And it seemed to, well, as you saw, it worked out very well. Although, you know, he missed a couple of chances to equalize, and there was also, he could have played knight f6, attacking my rook at g5, and basically going into a fairly equal endgame. Although, according to Fritz, I would have had a slight edge still. It's actually quite annoying to see that, because I thought I had a, you know, a good enough grip on the position that, yeah, there was no chance for him to, you know, get to any kind of equalizing or anything like that, or force any kind of equal endgame. So that was slightly annoying, but I mean, if your opponent doesn't make mistakes, then you can't win, so that's what it's all about. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this game. Please leave any comments or thoughts. Thanks very much.